election strategies, and it's going to be done by Omar Romero. He is from Rose IT Finance Able, so they do the online voting system for AGMs. So let me put it on screen. So Omar, you want to say hello, sir?
Hey everybody, good morning. How is everybody? All right.
You may have to
So-
speak a little louder.
Louder. Are you hearing me? Can you hear me? Hello? Can everyone hear me?
It's faint. It's still faint.
Okay, so I think I am, let me check and see if I could be louder. One sec.
Just a minute. We don't have
All right, is this any better? That's the most I could get it to.
Yeah, y'all are hearing? Very faintly. I trying to figure out. I knew that was an issue.
You hearing me? Hello?
Yeah,
All right. Is people in the room?
yeah. Go ahead.
All right. So you want me to just go ahead or?
Yeah, go ahead. You can go ahead.
All right. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Thank you everybody for the opportunity to deliver this presentation today. I am currently attending a conference in Las Vegas, so it's 8:42 a.m. and I think it's 11:42 a.m. by you. I would probably much prefer to be in St. Lucia, but I am here and I'm happy to give you all this presentation. So today what I will do is I'm just going to talk a bit about my presentation is based on digitalization strategies for credit unions, and specifically to talk about electronic voting at credit union AGMs. What I'm gonna do for you all today is basically I am going to give you all a bit of a background. I just have a few slides, and then we are going to try to make the session interactive. So we are trying to send you guys an email with a voting ID, and that will give you all an opportunity to actually try it, practical in terms of if there was a mock AGM election on an e-voting platform. And then from there, I guess we can do a bit of Q&A. I can answer any questions you guys have. I think we could treat it that way. Michelle, would that work?
Yes.
All right. And you would just let me know how you wanna if persons have questions, if you relay them or if they're able to,
Sure.
if they have a mic or anything. Okay. All right, great. All right. So again, thanks for having me. Just start, I guess, by giving a brief background of our company, Rose IT Services, and myself, and how we started, where we started, and how we started working with credit unions, particularly on AGMs. So my company, Rose IT Services Limited, we launched in 2011, and we are primarily a company that provides managed IT services. That is typically outsourcing IT departments, help desk, cybersecurity, all these things that the IT department would typically do. And we do work with many, we have clients who are in the financial services sector, including credit unions. And somewhere around 2013, one of our clients had invested in a ballot counting system that was meant to deal with the traditional challenge of the voting process at AGMs. Now, if you guys, I know many of you credit union, belong to credit unions, working in the credit union movement, or probably have been at AGMs in the past, and you would have probably remembered that, back in the days when you have an AGM and you have an AGM election, it was 3 boxes, 3 ballots, and that was a bit of a process. So at that time, our client had invested in the system, but they wanted us to run the system, to be able to set it up, to print the templates for the ballots, to do everything for the service side of it. And the year before that was actually the first AGM I attended, and when we did it that year, basically that was the you have your scanner and you have your um paper ballot solution. So let me stick a quick pin and jump across. I just have a few slides just to guide and then I think this will crystallize it a bit better, right? So okay. Right. So yeah, like what I said, we'd have started in 2013, and that's when we started. That was our first AGM, and then we had other credit unions who saw the system in action and wanted to leverage it for their annual general meetings and reached out to us. So it sort of became a service that we provided. Since 2013, we've managed and delivered over 300 credit union elections, and those would have been, as I said, in that electronic counting system, all the way up to now where we do um, with the onset of COVID, online elections, and then into hybrid AGM elections, and now we also do strictly manage elections for in person. We would have hosted since COVID over 105 AGMs now. It's probably a couple more. I mean, we had a couple over the last couple of weeks. And again, those are in different formats. These are fully hosting AGMs virtually, hybrid, and providing services for in-person. And on our virtual and hybrid AGMs, we have registered over 98,000 attendees. So we are coming up on 100,000 attendees. That would have been since we started delivering AGMs virtually in after COVID. So I think pretty much what happened is that it sort of mushroomed into separate services we provided where we would do not just the ballot counting for the credit union AGMs, but then providing the ushers, providing the returning officers, printing the ballots, distributing the ballots, everything that was involving full elections management. And then when COVID came about, a lot of the clients we provided that service for reached out to us and said, well, how are we going to even have an AGM? I mean, as you know, an AGM is typically a large gathering. Some of these meetings, well, in Trinidad, you can have even over 1,000 members attending in person. How are you going to replicate everything that happens on a physical in-person meeting online? And what would that look like? Now, I think we would have fell in a good place in that on the one hand, we are a technology company, we are IT specialists, but on the other hand, we understood credit union AGMs really well. We understood the credit union dynamic. We understood what happens in an AGM, every element of it, from the flow of it to the type of members that everyone needs to be heard. We really understood that well, and we were able to marry those two things to create a template for a virtual AGM. Now, I often tell people an AGM or a credit union AGM is unlike any other meeting there is. When I first attended my first AGM, I was surprised at the level of interaction in that I always remember that a member got up and he went to the mic and he berated the entire head table about something that he was questioning in the financials. And the persons on the head table dutifully took their time and explained everything to him in detail. And I had never seen that happen at any type of meeting before, because typically you go to any type of shareholders meeting and they tell you, right? You really don't have that opportunity to interact, or the persons who are delivering the presentations are not as accountable to their audience, or in this case, their members. Now, we had a real challenge in that how do you maintain or carry that level of interactiveness? How do you replicate that on a virtual platform? How do you create a platform that allows members to be heard? How do you create a platform that allows for things like motions, people moving motions, people being able to see reports, people being able to vote in a process that can stand up to scrutiny, that is quick and is efficient? And how do we exactly do that? Now, in particularly with the nature of a credit union AGM election, that is also a unique type of election because this is an election that happens within a fixed window in your meeting. So I don't know if well, if I was there with you, usually at this point I would ask if any persons there are members of financial institutions, or you own stock and you have shareholders meetings and there's an election that takes place. For example, on I, if I am invited to a shareholders meeting and there's an election, you would usually get a link in an email many days in advance, and you go online to cast your vote. But for a credit union AGM, if you remember from back in the days, you go to vote and they close the door, right? So if when that election is happening, you can only accommodate the members who are in the room. If you're not present at the time that election is happening, you are not allowed to vote. You're not even able to come into the venue until that process is complete, right? So that is a real challenge in that how do you also do that in a way that is efficient enough that you only deal with the members who are eligible. And the other thing is that members as well have eligibility requirements to be able to participate. If you're not in good standing, and there are some other criteria, then you are not allowed. So all this we have to consider in terms of how we would approach this solution, how we would design it, how we would develop it, and how we'd be able to deliver that in a way that allow credit unions to continue having annual general meetings. So in September 2020, I think, we would have delivered our first virtual AGM. We went through a process where we designed the solution, we took it to the Cooperative Development Division here in Trinidad and Tobago to have them look at it, vet it, give us their feedback, take it back to the drawing board, try to address the things that they foresaw could have been issues, try to make things try to develop it in a way that it satisfied all the criteria, and we would have delivered our first AGM in September 2020, and since then we have not looked back, right? So just hopping quickly back to the presentation. Okay, so where are we? Right, so as I said, the initial process would have been the traditional ballot box. You had 3 boxes. You had members who would, at that time in the meeting, form a line. They would get 3 ballots and they would mark an X next to the ballots and deposit those ballots into 3 boxes. After that process was finished, then the persons who were handling the election would take the boxes back, and then they would physically count those ballots, and then they would come back and with a result. Now, this process was prone to a lot of challenges. For one, it was a lengthy process. Sometimes this would go into hours to be able to complete this, not just the voting process, but then the counting process. there were flaws in the counting because, these are humans who have multiple boxes that, there were different boxes in the room, and they would pick up the boxes and bring it to the back, and there, a number of different people counting, and then it was prone to recounts. Sometimes these things could even end up in court, right? Sometimes a meeting would start, in one day, and then up to 2, 3, 4 in the next morning, they're still counting, and so there were a lot of challenges with this process. And then that is when it would have gradually moved into the electronic ballot counting, right? So basically, what this was a pre-printed ballot page with all the nominees for each of the committees on a sheet of paper. And then what you're seeing to your right is the system. So you have a high-speed scanner, and then there is the software that basically in real time does the counting of the ballots. What we used to do as well is we put a projector at the back of the wall, so the persons in the election could actually see the counts, the tabulation in real time, and then you're able to deliver a result. Now, before I explain the improvements with this, and then also some of the flaws, I think I actually had a quick highlight video which shows what that process looked like. Right, so I'll come up with this. Sorry, folks. Let me just get this slide back up. Right. Let me just share back the slide. Right. Yeah. Now, yes. So this was a major improvement on the previous process. First of all, it was a lot faster, right? The first time we like I mentioned, the first meeting we did this for, we did electronic ballot counting. There were just above 300 persons who were present. We would have, once we got all the ballots back to the counting station, we would have completed that process in probably around 12 minutes. And that first one, I distinctly remember that when we advised that there was the process was finished, there was a member who was demanding that no, he doesn't trust the system, that he wanted to come to the back and he wanted to actually count the ballots himself. And they actually, as I said, the credit union AGM is always facilitating for their members, and they actually had him come to the back and recount all the ballot pages that we would have passed through. And then he was actually satisfied that, yes, the system was accurate. So they didn't actually save the time in that meeting. But so that was a major improvement in terms of the time. There was also improvement in so we had, so you had members who would start coming out and saying they have never left a meeting this early, right? It was also an improvement in that, there was a lot less errors because now you don't have physical persons who are actually counting it and maybe counting wrong or missing ballots. It was just actually passing through a system. Now, this system had some flaws as well. The flaws in the system, one is that because you're dealing with a physical paper ballot, I don't know if any of you all who are there now at the venue would have gotten any paper in your hand, any material, anything like that. If you're anything like me, you give me a paper in my hand and I sit down 3 hours in a meeting with it, it'll probably become crumpled up by the time we get to elections, right? So people sometimes fold it, people crumple it, and then it has problems passing through the scanner. You have spoiled ballots. The other issue is you have spoiled ballots because if you are allowed to only vote for a certain amount of persons in a category, board of directors, credit committee and supervisory committee, it was a process of shading. So if you shade more than you're allowed to, then it would invalidate the vote for that specific committee. So you had spoiled ballots where some members may not have heard these instructions or accidentally shade more than they should. And because of that, there were some ballots that were not counted. Even though it saved time for the counting aspect, you still had the time to explain the process to distribute the ballots for the members to actually shade, to collect the ballots and then get them back to the counting station before you realize the speed. So it made the process faster, but there was still, it was still a process, right? So even though the electronic ballot system, counting system would have greatly improved the election process, there was still challenge with it. And over the years, we used to get asked, well, why can't this be like, something that there's something you could do on your phone or app or something like that. And, to be honest, is something we never really considered until, COVID happened, and then we had to figure something out, right? Now, when let me see this presentation up. Okay, so let me just stop this for a second. So not going back too much, so then COVID happened, and we needed a solution to be able to do in-meeting election on an online platform. Now, as I mentioned, one of the things that we understood was the dynamic or the demographics of credit unions and their members. Because credit unions have members from all different walks of life, you may have in one meeting some members who are professionals, you may have some members who are mature and elderly, you may have some members, a credit union's bond maybe for agricultural workers, right? So you may have members who have different levels of aptitudes when it comes to technology. That was one of the main reasons why we went with Zoom as a platform, which we deliver for the hybrid meetings, because we looked at different solutions, but then quite simply we said, look, my grandmother could get on a Zoom to go to church. So anybody, this is the easiest platform for everybody to be able to get as many members on. With regards to the elections, we thought we looked at different solutions that were already built online. Things like there's e-voting, I believe, election runner. There are a lot of different solutions online. But then we realized that most of these solutions are prohibitive because of one thing, and that one thing is that they required an email address for you to log in, and having a member have to leave a Zoom meeting to go to another browser to log in and remember a password to participate in an election process while a live meeting is going on and you have a fixed window of time. We thought that we could have a big drop off in the amount of persons who would be casting their vote out of a credential in a meeting. And we were really big about, everybody being able to cast their vote. So that is when we decided to build our own solution. And basically the solution by design, very, very simple. You are issued, you register. Once your credit union approves you, you issue a 5-digit code. And that code is unique to you. It gives you one vote in the election. It presents a ballot with your options, and you just have to enter that 5-digit code. And then you select who you want to vote for, submit. And by design, it's easy, but it's also secure, it's transparent, it's auditable. And we built the solution with kind of those core concepts in mind, with really the having the members who are participating at the front of that, right? So we would have developed that solution, and we call it I Vote Live. Right, I Vote Live is copyrighted. I Vote Live we've used first deliver virtual e-voting on virtual meetings, and then that we use the same solution for hybrid meetings. So hybrid meetings are where you have an annual general meeting where people are there in person, but then they can also come online, and everybody votes on the same platform. On the persons who are in person, they can just go to their phone and enter their code at the time of the elections and cast their vote. We also have ushers, so you have some members who either may not be comfortable using their phone or their devices. They don't have a device. Then we have ushers who move around the audience with tablets. We also, if you look on the left, those booths, we have those kiosk booths with some touchscreen kiosks. So you actually have a booth you could walk up to and cast your vote. And for the persons who are online, the link to the chat to the election portal is usually posted in the chat, or we have a button actually in Zoom, which you could actually just tap the button and it would take you directly to the portal. So super easy, right? And do I have anything here? What I will do is, right, this is just a video we have of one of the credit unions we have used iVote Live for, where we got some of the feedback for the members. So let me just share this with you guys.
Only one opportunity to cast your vote in AGM elections. Please make sure that you have your registration email at hand and await further instructions to cast your vote.
Well, I always come to the meeting every year. I'll vote, of course I vote. And I like how it went. Instead of you have to go up and sign and whatnot, it was very interesting. And I hope next year it will be the same as this year, or better next year, please below.
I like this one. I like this. It's better than the paper and the passing it. I find this process is less time. The best part is having this high-tech modern thing and knowing to use it personally without them throwing help. That was good.
As again, I say, I was impressed. They had the infrastructure in place. Security was done professionally. The assistance given by the personnel was also good. The advantages, it incorporates both the physical and likewise to members who will be tuning in online. That will give you a greater participation.
It made me feel great, knowing that I was able to just offer the touch of my phone, access the people and them that I wanted to be representing me and stuff like that. Didn't have to get off your seat to go and line up and everything simple on the phone and easier. It's better than paper because paper is more work. Paper would have been a lot more work and making mistakes. It's quicker to make a mistake on the paper rather than on your phone, and then you had to start the process all over again.
I would say next year, you don't have to come. You stay home. You can do it on your watch. You can do it anyhow. That is how you're going to move it. It could be different. So next year, we're going to upgrade. The transition is well accepted, and the digital is well forward right now. They say third world country, but even though you're in a third world country, you can do first world things. And this credit union is a step forward doing first world things.
Only one opportunity to cast.
All right, folks. So yeah, you'll have to bear with me. Anytime I have a video in the presentation. Right. Okay, good. Right. So right. So that is where we would have developed the solution, and has been very successful in terms of the times that and what we were able to deliver. Now, a few additional benefits that we'd have seen above the previous solution for the paper ballots is that one of the big ones is you don't have any spoiled ballots, right? Because by design, the system does not allow a member to vote for more persons than they are allowed to, right? The second big benefit, of course, is the speed. So recently so to give an example, we had a hybrid meeting with Clico Credit Union, which was on the 23rd of April. We would have had just over 150 persons present in person. and we would have had 130 plus members present online. From the time the election, the returning officer called for the election to start, which was at 7:57 p.m., to the time that the last ballot was counted. Last ballot was counted and he closed the election. The last ballot was counted at 8:08 p.m. And this is also considering that the help desk was helping a couple of persons who had issues online before we closed the election. So it's really, really quick in terms of as soon as the election is open, members can open their phone, they log in. The persons who are at the venue, they get a card which looks, and I will show you guys on the practical side, and cast their vote. It can take under a minute, under 2 minutes, and the persons online can also do it. And we also, we can leave a little time in terms of helping. Sometimes persons online, maybe they couldn't find their ID, or they need some assistance, but it's really, really quick. We have used the system to deliver the largest AGM held for a credit union in Guyana. So for the largest credit union in Guyana, we registered upwards of 4,000 persons for that AGM. They would have had a hybrid AGM, the first time being able to accommodate members because of the layout of Guyana who are in the different regions. So before that, if you wanted to attend that AGM, you had to come to the venue in Georgetown, or persons who are living out in the interior would probably have to take a plane to fly there. It was the first time that they were able to accommodate their members in all the regions of Guyana, and we were able to use the solution to deliver the election there, hybrid election there. We typically for a meeting that is, if you could have like 500 in person and even up to 1,000 online, we are confidently able to complete that election process between 15 and 20 minutes, right? So those are the, in terms of digitalization for credit unions, that is the big win for it. We are in the process, I should say, in terms of what comes next. We are in the process of developing iVote Live, I should say 2.0. It's probably first time anybody here, myself, call it 2.0. But where we're trying to take it is the ability to run multiple elections at the same time, the ability to allow credit unions to self-register their members, because as it is now, there's a registration process and a validation process that can be a bit tedious. So we're looking to see how we could also use technology and digitize and make that process simpler. Also, the ability to let credit unions host their own elections, because there are smaller credit unions we know for whom doing a whole hybrid AGM or doing something like that might be prohibitive in terms of costs, but delivering a lighter model where they can actually go online and create their own election. So that is basically it. What I will do, let me stick a pin, ask Michelle if anybody has any questions. My team was trying to send everyone here a registration email to do for us to do the practical part. I don't know if anyone on my team could say if you were successful. I know it was short notice.
Yes, send it out to 54 contacts on the list.
Okay, all right, great. So if you all are there, Michelle, you want to check and see if anybody got anything?
Yes, just hold a second. You could check your emails and see if you got the code. Yes, they did.
All right, great. So before we jump ahead, you want to pause? Anybody has any questions? I don't
Any
know.
questions to Omar? Not yet, Omar.
Okay. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, huh? And I hope I'm not keeping back your lunch, right? So let's jump right into the practical part of it. So you all have gotten an email. That email is basically what anybody who registers for a hybrid or AGM would receive. And in that email, you would see highlighted in yellow, there is a voter ID, and that ID is unique to you, right? So the way we're gonna do this is I am going to show you what the back of the card looks like. And it has a QR code, and then you guys can simply scan the QR code as it comes up on the projector. I'm on a projector, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, all right, just checking. Okay, cool. Right. So this is what the back of the card looks like. It takes you directly to the portal. So at this time, if everybody could just scan that QR code and use that code from the email and go right in. I believe what you'll see when you log in is the last, it was the ballot from the last election that we did. But you could just, yeah, just highlight any of the faces you want and go right ahead. And as you do it, Michelle, if you just want to give me a feedback in terms of if they get in through.
She didn't get the email. Oh, I really got my phone.
If anybody hasn't gotten an email and wants to try, I guess we could put a couple codes in the chat. Michelle, you able to see the chat there?
Yes, I will be able to see it.
Yeah. Do you have anybody there who needs a code? We could. I don't know if we give codes who we don't know who would have actually. If you give us the name or email address, you might be able to tell what code was assigned to them. But
Anybody needs a code? Who needs a code? You wanna just give me an email quickly? Come and give us your email.
Yes.
You didn't get an email? What's your email address?
Sorry,
I don't get emails not from CaribDE. It's a shame, but I don't know why.
Because they probably have your incorrect email address.
Yeah, it was to the league.
Well, that's fine.
you have somebody who needs one.
Yes, we need one. We need two.
All right. All right. What's the name of the what's the person's email address or the name
Email address you could have gone to.
let me see if I could pull it up here.
You also don't want to what? Yeah, let me direct it down to the- Yeah. Just a second, Omar.
Sure.
A funnel or some other intermediary site that's leading to those IT because some phones are blocked and it won't go directly to those IT. So her phone just blocked it. And to me, mine, I saw it through another website and then it went to those IT.
Oh,
You could also just enter the email address at the the URL at the bottom of the QR code, huh?
.ly. You could just
Yeah.
enter as well.
Yeah, so some of them I suspect because it has to be that maybe blocking it.
Some person's phones are blocking it.
Okay, so you could just type in the the URL.
I think the URL.
Is anybody you all getting through though? For the other persons?
Yeah, so
Business.
I don't get a clue, okay?
You didn't get a code either? What's your email?
He's saying just type to the website and then the type the thing instead of pressing on the type it to the right and I can do it. We'll be taking those instructions.
We'll give you a separate code.
So that's it.
And you aren't seeing that. What are they? Any NATO dash?
Yes.
Not okay. Check your junk mail. Check your junk folder as well.
Yeah, if you're in Gmail, you have a promotions tab, you might want to check there as well. All right, Michelle, you'll give me a signal if you have anybody, or if you wanna, if everybody get through.
Everybody has gotten through more or less?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes? And then it will get you. You can't vote here until people get you the second. No, this is it.
I can get through this one.
You're using this code just now. So Omar, once they have gotten to the link and they put in their code, can they go log in one time?
Yeah. They should just go right ahead. Just put in the ID, the 5-digit code, and press login. While I'm doing that, let me share I should have done this before, but let me just share the
Video?
tutorial video. Yeah.
Next slide.
This video explains how to cast your vote in the live meeting election. Once you've registered, you would have received a unique voting ID. When the returning officer officially declares the election open, follow the instructions given to access the voting portal. Enter your voting ID, then click the button to log in. From the list, select the persons you would like to vote for. If you try to select more than the maximum, you will not be allowed to proceed. Scroll down and repeat the voting process for each of the committees. Once you have completed your selections, click the button to submit your vote. If you have family members or other persons that need to submit their vote using the same device, you may click the link to return to the home page.
Okay, folks, so that's the tutorial video that explains the process. So how everybody making out?
They're coming along good, I think. Everybody getting through? Yeah, they're getting through.
All right. So, I mean, at this stage, I guess if anybody has any questions, we could take any
Can
questions.
field some questions. So any questions for Omar? Any questions for Omar? Anybody wants something to clarify? Just a second, Omar. I think everybody using the internet, so please. Everybody using the internet.
So it's a question from another person that likes to as well. We were wondering whether values were included next to the photos. Perhaps if you're not familiar with the candidates, you could have a value to know more about them.
Sorry, I didn't hear that clearly. Michelle, could you repeat
We
that?
wanted to know whether or not where the person is listed, if there could be a bio
Or on the ballot?
on the ballots.
Right. So usually this election is the last thing that happens in the entire election process. So what you have is the nomination committee report, and then the returning officer usually presents the nominees, and that is where the bios are usually shown. So in the process of introducing each of the committees, and sometimes they would say, these are your nominees for the board of directors, and they would invite them to come forward and introduce, so they may have a bio up on the screen. During that process is when the bio is presented. Also, there are some credit unions that allow for floor nominees. So if during that process, they invite floor nominees and a nominee comes off the floor, then the ballot is updated in real time. Now, obviously, if it's a floor nominee, we would not have the photo for the person who comes off the floor. Usually we just use like a placeholder or the credit union logo. But that is how the ballot is updated, and then the voting, all you're doing is voting for the names or the faces on the ballot.
Any other questions? Huh? Anybody else wants to know anything else?
Voting.
They're voting. They want to know if they want to vote.
They vote.
They're ready to vote.
No, I thought they voted already. They were supposed to vote once they got the Is the portal open?
Yeah, we just 4 minutes.
They didn't hear the go ahead to vote. Sorry.
Oh yeah. No, from before they could have gone in at any time. So that is them go right ahead. While they're doing that, I should also mention, so after we have the voting process is complete, the return officer closes off, declares the election closed, and then the results are tabulated. What happens next is that the results are generated and they're provided to the election scrutineers. So election scrutineers are usually, well, here in Trinidad, it's usually representatives from the cooperative division. It would be returning officer. In some other territories, you may have a auditor, but those are the persons who receive the preliminary results, and they would look at it to see things like to make sure the numbers match up with the credentials in the meeting, to make sure that there are no ties, because if you have a tie situation, then sometimes that has to be resolved before the results are announced. They would verify, and then once they give the go ahead, then the results are delivered. The other thing that is provided to the election scrutineers is an audit report, and this is another thing that that is a major improvement to the previous processes, because in previous processes, you really don't have a way of tracking or understanding who cast a vote, right? If you put a ballot in a box or you shade a sheet, that doesn't tie back to anyone. Whereas in this process, they get an audit report that says this member was given this ID code and they voted at this exact time. So it's a simple audit report that has the person's voter ID. It has the person's name, and it has the timestamp of when it is.
Great. Anything else for Omar? So Omar, I guess you'll do a tally and get back to us.
Well, I had it in demo, so I don't know if we set up to process to generate results yet. I could show you what a result what our results would look like. Just not for this particular one. So one sec. Where do I have this? Right. Okay, so this is what our results presentation will look like. This is a demo of it. So all right.
it don't happen too nice, man.
Yeah.
All right, great.
So that's what the results look like. So any questions? How is everybody? How is it going for everybody there? Is it easy enough?
Yes, feedback is positive.
Okay. All right. Anybody else has any other questions?
Average cost.
It varies based on the size of on things like the size of a meeting, whether so the election is typically part of our overall AGM service. So hybrid AGM or well, not so much virtual again, but in person would typically start somewhere around 2,000 US depending probably, but it really depends on a lot of different things. So you know, if anybody's interested, you know, could feel free to reach out and we could nail that down a bit further.
Per AGM, per event.
Per event.
Per event.
Yeah. Yeah. But that would be just for in-person election. As you look into if it was hosting a AGM, then you will have things like multimedia for the venue, in terms of the registration and managing the entire event, the online streaming. So there are different elements that the project management of it, so different elements to that service. So it's usually what we do is if anybody's interested, we have a quick call just to understand the requirement, and then we follow that up with specifics.
All right, so Omar, you will share your contact information with them.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
All right, good. Well, if there's nothing further, Omar, we would like to thank you so much for taking time out from your conference out there in Vegas to share with us about the online voting process and what Rose IT offers. So thank you so much, and we hope some of them will be in touch with you. All right.
All right.
So
Thank you so much for having me, and you will enjoy the rest of your CaribDE sessions. And I'll share my contact information after. Just feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to bounce anything off after this. All right.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.